Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Lumberslayer and Friends podcast. I am the one true Lumberslayer, Alex Abishan, joined as always by Adam Friedman. Hey, we start every episode with beer. Adam, what are we drinking today?
We have a treat from Flint.
Oh, shit. It's actually from Mount Pleasant.
Ah. Machine Shop's in Flint, though, right?
Machine Shop is in Flint. So this was an interesting pickup, Aaron, from my band of Silence.
World famous.
World famous. Brought down a gift. Thanks, Aaron. You're a nice guy. So, Mountain Town Brewery in Mount Pleasant teamed up with the Machine Shop to produce this beer. So we get our nice little crossover of the metals in the beer. Machine Shop is a pretty famous venue out in Flint, and if you're any kind of metal fan and you've like paid attention to any metal news sites like your Blabbermouth or your Metal Injection, and you've seen a band photo in a hallway surrounded by pictures, you've probably seen the Machine Shop. It's like a notorious thing to do, to take your band picture in this hallway. I guarantee you've seen this if you've paid any attention to metal in the past 10 years.
I don't pay any attention to metal.
Well, there you go. So this is going to be a fun one. I'm excited to try this out.
So we got Michigan Imperial Stout. 10%. She hefty.
Don't kick you right in the balls. Start out with.
Support live music.
It's important.
Mountain Town Brewing Company. Mount Pleasant. Beautiful. This is going to be a little bit cold for an Imperial Stout, but yeah, we'll survive it.
We'll let it ride.
Cool metal label. I like it. So not only are we drinking beer today, we have a pure Scandinavian death metal lineup to talk about.
The truest of which.
And it does not lack in brutality.
None such. Which, so, Imperial makes all the sense in the world.
It certainly does.
So let's do it. Cheers to beers.
Cheers to beers.
Kaboom. Real roasty.
Very, very roasty. Actually tastes exactly as it smells.
Really wish I let this warm up a little bit. Really fucked up on this one.
Well, we're not in any rush here.
True that.
Let it sit for a few.
It's really good. Fairly light for an Imperial.
Yeah, not a real heavy mouthfeel.
Again, it just might be like really fucking cold, but got Coca-Cola darkness to it.
It's got like a roasty booziness foundation, but not a real heavy mouthfeel still. Yeah. So it's not like syrupy or anything. It's a little bit lighter on the tongue.
Yeah, really not kicking you in the dick. Pretty nice. Heavy on the carbonation.
Yeah, it's a little bubbly. I think that accentuates the lightness actually, where it doesn't actually taste real heavy. So it's just a little carbonated.
Have you noticed? And this just might be me, but like I also haven't had a shitload of Imperials in cans. Do bottles lend themselves better to releasing some carbonation than cans?
And I'm sure there's some science to it, but in my experience, no. Like almost everything's moving toward cans, or if it hasn't already, it still is. But I mean, you're right though. Most like Imperial stouts, you'll still see in a bomber size or
right
in a 4-pack of 12s. But
I don't know if it's like an association thing or if I'm just like way overthinking it. But like I just don't feel like I want an Imperial in a can in general. I don't know.
Let me talk to Ben about that. And Ellison, they do their stouts completely in cans now. Yeah. Even like their insane barrel aged stuff, they're doing in cans.
Everybody's doing cans.
Yeah.
It's craziness.
Friday was pretty cool for new releases.
Friday is madness. This whole fucking dude, it's fall time. You're getting the big waterfall of shit.
Big time.
Big time. Let me take a moment to complain.
Here we go.
As I tend to do. Ever since I've had to put the edition on the shelf for the Lumberslayer CD library, I have had a crazy amount of bands that the Lumberslayer library is in alphabetical chronological order, and having the top shelf that is right at the ceiling has become a pain in the ass. I have gotten so many back cataloging and new releases, A, B, and C band releases. And it's been a gigantic pain in the dick having to climb on the goddamn desk to reorder the fucking shelf. Today is no exception with our reviews of Blood Red Throne and Bastard Grave. Pain in the dick.
Wait, so you did get your hands on?
I did not yet.
You did not, okay.
But I'm
Right,
waiting.
we'll
That's
talk
another
about
thing
it.
I want to complain about. Going on rants today, bitching about shit. Fucking week where I have 2 Jewel Case CDs and I can't get a goddamn copy without having to order it. So I'm waiting on my 2 goddamn albums, which is a bitch.
Maybe Meyer should expand their
They
music
should.
game. Hey, Meyer, more death metal, please.
Dude, that was so fucking funny. Like, watching the decline of physical format stuff where you could go to a Meyer and, like, you could never get anything underground, but you can do some decent CD shopping at Meyer. She gone.
Well, your
Not an option.
FYE, that was your go-to for decades.
That was just easy and was close. Smaller stuff, you'd still have to reach out.
They are no more.
There are no more. But hey, it's what it is. We evolve with the times.
Or do we?
Fair. That is fair.
Pretty clever way to release an EP for Ghost. Or if you really, I'm not sure if you even call it an EP, but a 2-single release.
I'd call it an EP. You know what? I kind of like this version better than the previous 2 making cover albums. Sticking Square Hammer onto a cover EP doesn't do a whole lot for me. Yeah, I kind of like this. Chuck a 7-inch at it. Stylistically, I like that they went with the groovy look. Did you watch the video?
I did.
That was fun.
An interesting look for Toby.
Yeah. Doing a Jim Morrison-esque.
Yeah. I mean, fuck me if it's not entertaining, for sure.
It's very
But, I
entertaining.
mean, I think it's this Ghost we're talking about, so we can't be really surprised. 7 inches of satanic panic.
Mm.
I like it.
Kiss the Go-Goat.
I mean, first listen, I was like, okay. Second listen, I was like, that's pretty good. And then now I love it.
Yeah.
That's per usual.
I was waiting for that. I intentionally didn't make comments after you said you how I feel
well,
about it.
you know, you come out with, Square Hammer, obviously, it was like one of the, probably the catchiest song that Ghost has ever come out with. And I mean, now they've been around for 10 years and he's written a bunch of good songs. But I'm not sure that Kiss the Go-Goat is really on Square Hammer level catchiness. But
No, I don't think so either.
But it's pretty fun. I mean, everything from the production to his vocals to everything just screams like this 1960s vibe, and it's pretty sexualized and weird, but it also won't get the radio play. Even if it was as catchy as Square Hammer, I don't think it'll get the radio play because instead of having subtle satanic intricacies here, he's like literally saying Lucifer and Satan
Right.
in the chorus. So I don't see that. I don't see this playing over the speakers at Little Caesars Arena, but it's pretty fun.
I really like the direction that they've gone with Papa Zero. I find those fucking videos unbelievably entertaining.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a really fucking good time.
So would there be any hesitation for you at all if they came and played an arena show that you would want to go?
Yeah, because any arena show I'm already hesitant to go to.
Yeah.
Anyways, dude, it's just I'm such a fucking bitch about shows. Always have been. Actually, that's not true. I haven't always been. When I was a teenager, I fucking loved going to shows. I'm so fucking over people.
Yeah,
Drives me nuts.
Well, it's a big downfall of our society, really. But I love the idea of going to see them in an arena show. But then it also makes me cherish when I went with Rob and Mike to see them when they were touring Melior, it was probably the last time you'd see them in a really intimate
Mm-hmm.
thing, because they've since just gone
Them,
absolutely crazy.
them at like a Fox Theater or a Fillmore would be like ideal to me, where you can use the whole stage, fill up that production space, and that to me would be the ideal situation to see them in. Arena would be a little bit too much.
Another super highly anticipated. It's funny, a band not even on my radar until you mentioned them, and then I realized the hype around it. Crypt Sermon,
Yeah.
The Ruins of Fading Light. Holy mother of God!
Yeah, this one I'm thinking is probably going to end up needing to have a full episode review because, fuck.
I got one word for you: guitar. That's some of the finest sounding guitar playing, guitar tones, guitar riffs. Just it's so, and I mean obviously the vocal guy, he's pretty impressive. And they just wrote some really nice songs. But I listened to this album just one time so far, and I'm like, I can't get over this guitar. He's out of this world.
I want to go back and re-explore 2017 and see if the residuals of 2017 lined up 2018 to feel as good as it did, because this year feels like way better than last year, and last year was pretty goddamn great.
I think it's on par with last year. I don't think it's way better.
Really?
That's just for me though.
I don't know, man. There's a lot more albums that I've latched onto this year than last year, and last year was fucking great.
Last year was definitely great, but we also have still a handful of guys to come out.
I know
still this year. So I mean, there's two still coming out that I'm pretty much banking on loving, which is probably not fair, but that's where my expectations are.
Yeah.
So I would love to spend an hour or so talking, like revisiting 2017 and looking at that. I think that's a very, very interesting idea.
Yeah, I think it deserves a reevaluation on our end in particular. Like, dude, like, you dig up so much shit from back catalogs, finding new bands. So, I think it'd be good. Hold on a second. I think... Fucking knocking shit over.
Was that the first one?
That's the first one. Let me see when this was. I feel like this was 2017. Crypt Sermon. This isn't going to tell me.
It should.
It should. It doesn't. Smaller label. Dark Descent. I like them. They're very fucking underground in their releases. And there's like no copyright information on them whatsoever. So I'll go fuck myself.
Yeah, it's impressive stuff though. And yeah, if you want to go back and look at that and do in depth, then I'm down. That's one of those bands though, for sure though. You can love the music, and there's gonna be metalheads out there that are like, I can't do this vocal performance.
That's fair.
Can't
I was
do it.
actually surprised myself that I liked it as much as I did, because that had every right to be not in my wheelhouse, I guess. So
I mean, do you fuck with the epic doom
no,
sound? Because that's really when I think about it, that's not up your alley really at all.
no.
I'm probably a little bit more into that than you are. But even then, it's not really my cup of tea either. I need like a handful of bands, but I mean, I think that's a rabbit hole you could really go down if you were really into that, like some people are.
Quality prevails. How about that?
Well, this is definitely up there, I think. It's not extreme metal. It's, I don't know where you put it. Epic doom. I mean, I don't know. I save the world of extreme metal to have blackened and death elements to it for the most part. This is really not that. It's good shit though.
It is. I'm excited.
Nile released a single.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to run that. You were mentioning that you liked it.
Yeah, well, November 1st, they're dropping a full length. It'll be really interesting to see what they do now. It's been a while. It's at least a few years for them.
I want to say 2014?
Is it that long?
Might have been. I opened for them on an album touring cycle. I want to say it was 2014. I could be wrong. And they might have released something after that too. I haven't looked. I'm gonna stop talking now because I don't know.
And
that was one of my favorite shows I've
we
ever
definitely
played.
don't have all the answers to all these things we're wondering
right?
right here. We're just gonna not know. Anyways, let's take a trip to Scandinavia for the next handful of minutes here. Let's talk about Bastard Grave.
All right, let's do that. I like it.
So this was a band that's totally off my radar. I'm pretty sure new to you as well, right?
Yeah, well, this is their second full length, so it could be expected to not have them on the radar. Adam sent these guys to me, and I threw on, I think it was the title track. Just to give it a quick little preview, and I thought instantly this sounds like something Adam would be into. Adam is a big old school death metal guy, and this album reeks of old school brutal death metal.
Indeed.
Just as a preview, I mean, like, stylistically, they went, like, as old school Cannibal Corpse as you can get, with a little bit more technical proficiency and a little more depth to it, but, like, it's gritty as fuck. It's, lower than you would expect Fidelity production. It stylistically sounds like you were trying to make an late 80s underground death metal album, and there's something very appealing about that, and not expected out of a Swedish death metal band.
Right. Well, I think there's elements of your old school Swedish death metal as well. I think everything you said is 100% spot on with the grit and everything of, say, Cannibal Corpse and similar bands, but I think there's definitely some Entombed there and Dismember as well. And I think I hear most of that just in the buzzsaw guitars, where, I mean, it's like, it literally sounds like a buzzsaw just kind of chugging away, which is, that's a compliment. I think they nailed that sound. But it's pretty straightforward stuff, and it's just fucking fun to listen to. And going back to the gritty comment, it's so gritty.
Is it Philadelphia gritty?
It might as well be a mascot for the Philadelphia Flyers. I don't know.
I like what you did. So we'll start out with Life in the Sewer. These titles of this album are just so fucking putrid and gross, and invokes everything that you want out of the actual songs.
It's exactly what it's supposed to be. Like, they wrap up an old school death metal album just with a bow on it, exactly the way that it should be presented.
So what these guys do a lot is stay right in the mid-tempo. The drums aren't particularly driving for most of this album, and you stick to a lot of grooves. Everything's really, really sink your teeth in, biteable, riff-wise. What's cool about this one is you're getting the whole song's just driven by chugging, but with a lot of neck action on the guitars. You get a little bit of frills, but it's just the whole fucking song. Cool solo in this one.
Yes.
I instantly want a little bit more dive bomby, high whammy bar cuts in it, but I mean, that's just nitpicking a little bit. It's just like, and the whole song just like kind of like sinks into hell at the end. Like, it's a really nice start up to your album.
I think it's a super fun opener for this album. My favorite part, about halfway through, everything stops and it's just a guitar playing a riff all by itself. And when you had headphones on, it's on the left channel, and then the vocals come in on the right channel and join them back. It's such a cool way to chop up the track and to make it halfway interesting. Instead of just chugging for 4.5 minutes straight through,
Sure.
They chop it up with that, and it was a very, very cool effect. It was a very fun way to start off a death metal album.
Right, yeah, for as much as they don't put into cleaning up any of the production, they really do play with the stereo effect a lot on this album, so good point out. Moving on to Translucent Visions. We pick up right where we left off. It's another heavy mid-tempo banger. There's this nice little creepy false stop 2 minutes before it ends. And then it comes back and just breaks your fucking balls big time. It's just a fucking brutal track, dude.
Probably the catchiest chorus on the album, I thought. That was really the only standout to that track. The rest is pretty uniform for their sound.
Drowning in an ocean of bile. Just as brutal as the name implies.
Death metal.
Blasty and brutal. That's about all I got on that one.
Short and sweet, too. It's not even 3 minutes. They get in, they get out.
Well, what's funny, too...
It's an ocean of bile.
is the two shortest songs on the album play pretty long in terms of, like... We're coming off of that last Tool album where you have these stupid interludes that, like... Oh, like, they felt longer than these two short tracks, and they were a minute shorter. So...
That's what's so cool, man, about the two things we focus on here. Beer, the diversity in beer is ridiculous. The diversity in metal and in music is astounding. It's fun.
True that. So we move over to the title track. Kind of a death and roll song, and I think that's mostly based in the drums. This song is borderline danceable. Like, it's just so easy to fucking, like, just rock to.
The way I always think of it is a track makes you want to move. It's easy to move to. I'm right there with you.
It's got this, like, swinging groove bridge that it does. It's one of my favorite moments on the album. I'm a big fan of this. I like what they did here. It was a really good moment to throw in some diversity after, like, 3 consecutive tracks that have just gradually brutalized you. And not to say that this track lets up, but it's definitely a nice little refreshing bit of variation. Transubstantiated. There we go.
Transubstantiation into feces. This is probably one of the more unique tracks. I mean, for their classic death metal sound. The intro and the outro in this track has some light picking to it. So these guys aren't just chugs, chugs, chugs from beginning to end. There's plenty of that. But this is a cool track in that they do show you, like, we can play our fucking instruments. That's not going to just melt your fucking face off, you know?
Right. Give you an atmospheric intro. That was a nice little change up. Yeah, dude, I think you fucking nailed it.
Yeah, except for not being able to pronounce the name of the track.
I just couldn't spit it the fuck out. That was the problem.
Inner Carnivore. Another great death metal track name.
It's loaded with it. Those little cool start-stop blasts in the beginning and at the end, fucking perfect. Another great fucking solo on this track. They don't overstay their welcomes on the solos. They're pretty quick in and out, and we're going to go back to this on Blood Red Throne. But, yeah, just not a whole lot of time spent on the solos, and they're used sparingly, but when they're there, I fucking love them, and I wouldn't mind a few more throughout this album. So, that's cool. Madness of Creation. So, at this point in the album, I'm not getting burnt out, but shit's starting to get a little bit, like, if there were an easy listening death metal, that's what I would categorize these guys as. It's not that there isn't technical proficiency, and it's not like they don't have interesting songs, but, like, it's a whole lot of quality straight death metal all the way through. And at this point, this is where it kind of all starts flowing together. I might have opted to throw a change-up track at this point instead, but at the same time, it's like, it's not a bad song.
You know, I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that. I get where you're coming from, for sure. But it was at this point in the album, tracks 7 and 8 were my favorites.
Yeah.
And I engaged more with those than anything
No
else.
shit, that's fine.
There was little tiny sections like I've highlighted so far in our discussion here, but I really didn't start to dig it hardcore until later on in this album. and Madness of Creation. That was really the first track that really got me. Like the fun factor started to hit for me.
No
right,
shit.
right here. This is the track that really got my head moving. I love how they bring the chorus back for like a third round at the very end of the track. So the track almost ends on the chorus, which is just not a traditional song structure. Yeah, I think that this one and then the next one, Non-Functioning Pile of Rot.
God,
Yeah,
so good with
they're crushing that. Very, very tasteful tempo changes here. So it's funny. Like, this is classic death metal for sure, like through and through, and they just chug all the way through. But at the same time, they're giving you these little hints of something different. They know what they're doing. This is not kids playing as loud and fast as they possibly can. This is all well thought out, well planned, well written songs. So yes, they're channeling Cannibal Corpse and Entombed and Dismember, but it's still they're doing something just a little bit different, which I can appreciate a lot here. Let's see, what else do I have? I really, really liked Non-Functioning Pile of Rot.
Best solo on the album. Not like I said, it wasn't like laced with solos, but this one really had a lot of character to it, and this had the dive bomb that I was looking for.
There was some guitar harmonizing in this track as well.
Yeah.
That you don't get a whole lot through this album. That's why like, these tracks 7 and 8 really, really got to me.
Stench of Infection. Like, if nothing else, they deserve an award for track titles.
Yeah, and they're not extremely long too. Like sometimes death metal guys that they try to, really hit that gore factor. They have these titles, track titles that, are like a paragraph. It's like, this is short and sweet, but really, really spot on. I have we've talked about this before. I keep a Google Doc of band name ideas, track title ideas, lyrical ideas. It just, it's death metal. It's fucking as disgusting and as dark as possible. And, these guys, they crushed it.
Murder. A guy gets murdered.
Exactly.
Big, like, riding into hell intro. Big slow collapse right in the middle. The guitar screaming over the, like, steady rhythm section. More on, like, the latter third of the track. Such a fucking cool moment.
I thought that when they slowed down here in sort of the middle third of the track, you got some Death Doom vibes. It got just kind of putrid sludge going at a super crawl of a pace, just like in Doom, but they don't let up on that death metal heavy chugging. It kind of, I know this is crazy, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of what the guys do so well in Tomb Mold, where it's without a doubt death metal, but they just get this like slow pace that reminds me so much of Doom. That's all I got.
I can dig it. Overall, just like one of the most fun fucking death metal records I've heard this year. Not so much a thinking man's death metal album, at the same time providing you with a little bit more than you would expect. If you were having this as background music, you'd miss a fuckload of shit. Mm-hmm. You miss a lot of really, really cool little moments. One of my favorite album arts of the year is brutal as fuck.
Yeah. Their logo is cool. It's totally readable, but still brutal.
Mm-hmm. This album just fucking screams, listen to this during October, the whole month of October, nonstop. It was a good ass time.
What are you gonna be for Halloween? Bastard Grave. I clearly liked it a lot. Not a whole lot of drum parts that stood out to me. The drums just were not a highlight.
Drums were very meat and potatoes on this album, and like, I don't think they like hindered anything. But yeah, definitely not there was a whole lot of one on the floor, one on the snare.
Yeah, just not a whole lot for me to engage with. But at the same time, if he didn't fuck up, then he's doing his job.
Right.
So I don't want to give him too hard of a time. Another thing in the rhythm section, bass player is a woman, so you gotta, shout out the love for the ladies, representing old school death metal, not missing a beat. Fucking cool. Love to see that. I'm picking it up.
I'm picking it up too. It's in the mail, along with their first album. Their first album has a little bit more, for lack of a better term, authentic rawness that I like a little bit better than this one. So I encourage you all to check out both of their albums. They're fucking great. So there it is. Bastard Grave.
Bastards.
How about another beer?
Let's go with this guy. Tell me about this can that I'm super intrigued by. Why don't you do the honors?
So, my wife works at a beer bar, and every once in a while she brings home little treats. So we have
y'all deserve a nice treat.
We have a couple IPAs from Collective Arts based out of Hamilton, Ontario. We are going to pop open Ransack the Universe Indie Pale Ale. Really cool fucking artwork on this guy.
Yeah, that's great.
There's a whole lot to look at. Bitching about bottles earlier, the one thing that's nice about the can is the space available to really fucking fill out the artwork, especially with the Tallboy Revolution. I really like that that's a thing. I think the Tallboy is what's the word I'm looking for?
A good canvas.
Not only is it a good canvas, but like a 16-ounce beer is, I think, a much more fair way to judge.
Oh, so you're like an actual volume.
Yeah.
Right, gotcha. Yeah,
as we split it in half.
Not only is it cool because there's this cosmic space thing going on there, but the color scheme is wonderful. And I'm no visual artist. I'm clearly more into music and literature, but that's just a beautiful can. I love it.
Well, like color match, man.
Pretty goddamn close.
It's pretty close. So the cool thing with the Collective Arts too is they throw out who did the artwork, and this was done by Steve Mack,
Stevie
of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So
this is our West Coast IPA from them. There's also a New England that we'll get to. So we can both coasts. Yeah. Cheers to Mr. Mack. That's freaking great. Really, really cool.
And cheers to beers.
Cheers.
Wow.
Oh wow, very, very tropical nose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all the fruit without the haze.
Ooh, man.
It's an interesting one. Oh, that's good.
That's one of the better... look. Okay, before we get into this, I absolutely love Canada. Love, love, love Canada. My wife has a bunch of family there. I visited Canada a lot in my life growing up, 20 minutes from Canada. I will say, and it's not like I drink Canadian beer often, but... when I do visit Canada, it's been a little bit more tricky to find good craft beer than it is here.
Sure.
It's not a fair direct comparison because I live in the United States and I have much more access to beer here. But the trips that I do take there and I try to seek out stuff is a little bit more tricky. This is one of the better IPAs from Canada I've ever tasted.
It's really tasty. Kind of getting a little bit of mango.
Yeah, for sure.
Fuck, it's good. Like I said, it's like all the fruitiness without any of the haze.
Yeah, I mean, if this is the West Coast one, I don't know what the New England's going to taste like. This is very sweet, very fruity. Still like a real pow of hops. The bitterness is all at the end because it's all fruit up front.
It's so fucking funny, like
Complex.
How much lactose we've had and how much unfiltered stuff we've had. Like having a full-bodied beer without any of the like extra texture is so nuts. It's like completely fucking foreign at this point. It's really fucking good.
Hops Mosaic and Galaxy. No wonder it's so wonderful. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
It's pretty cool, man.
I'd rate that highly.
More medals?
That's why I'm here.
Blood Red Throne.
So we took a trip to Sweden. Now we shall jump over the channel and go to Norway.
For as close as these guys are, about as polar opposite death metal as you can get.
Indeed.
We move over to a veteran death metal band. This is their 9th full length. So these guys have been around since early 2000s.
I think established in '98, but I think 2001 was their debut, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry if I fucked that up, but it's close.
I'm going to let you take the lead on this one because I've only had one listen to it because I held off looking for a copy of it and was unable to find it. So I've only had one listen to the whole album. So I will elaborate, but I think you should take the lead on it.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the band before we dive in on the track by track. So, 2016, Union of Flesh and Machine hit me like a ton of bricks. Wonderful death metal album. We listened to it, talked about it quite a bit, and you really made the point. Is like, it's amazing to have death metal that's as brutal as this is, but it is at the same time in the guitars you sort of have this thrashy element as well.
Yep.
So you have that layer. Also, the vocalist is just an absolute monster. I'm fairly certain that he does both the guttural as well as the high pitched thing. So it's sort of the dichotomy there that you and I are huge fans of Cattle Decapitation, and he's probably the best I've ever heard.
I was gonna bring that up
at doing that. But god damn it, is this so fucking awesome. I bringing that duo to the table opens things up so much. I always pick on the guy from Immolation who's so good at what he does with his gutturals, but he's so consistent. And by the end of an Immolation record, which is always great, like they've made 10 great albums, I'm definitely like waiting for something else. The guy from Blood Red Throne and the guy from Cattle Decap, they don't allow you to get to that place because they can do these both voices, and it also opens you up lyrically because you can also have two characters in one track.
Yep.
Sort of having a conversation or going back and forth or having two separate completely different thoughts. So it just makes things extra interesting, and that's the whole reason we're here, you know. So huge kudos.
And more to that point, like with the Bastard Grave, where it's easy to tune out and just accept that you're listening to brutal death metal through the whole track. Having the two different vocal styles to punch you in the dick when you're not paying attention a little bit, it's a really nice layer of texture. And not to discount anything from Bastard Grave, but a 2-trick pony is twice as good as a 1-trick pony.
Hey.
The only thing better than a crawfish dinner is 5 crawfish dinner.
Well, also this band represents another funny thing for me. How small of a world it really is. Okay, so these guys have been around since, around 2000, give or take. And this band was formed by former members or even current members of other very, very prominent Norwegian bands. So like you don't always think of this, but it's a small world. Like all these guys know each other. They're all part of a community.
Yep.
So we have members from this band, or at least from the founding members, whether they're current or not. I'd have to actually check that. But this band was founded by guys of Satyricon, former Emperor, and Enslaved. This is like, I mean, name
it's a nice combination.
Yeah, name bigger names in Norway. I mean, so that this is coming. The experience here is coming from like the Norwegian metal pioneers here.
Yep.
So, you're gonna get quality from the very get go. What this is, though, is death metal. What you get, for the most part, in Norway, including most of what I just mentioned, is black metal. So, in other words, a lot of these guys, they can do it all. They got mad chops.
And as you alluded to earlier, the ability to that old school black metal came out of thrash. You get some thrashy elements mixed in here, and that adds texture to what could otherwise be a very straightforward sound. So it's nice.
And what really gets me, and we'll jump into the tracks here in a second, but what really gets me is the fun factor here. This is like the epitome of a band where if you were in the pit for this, it would just be the most fun I could imagine having at a live show. I will also make this one last comment about the band before we dive in here. I was talking to Mike about this a few months ago. Especially their last album, Unit of Flesh and Machine. This band is one of the best bands to lift weights to. Like, the intensity and the fact that it never gives up on you. It's just constantly push. My favorite, perhaps, to listen to when you're lifting heavy.
I can dig that.
On a run, it's not so good, because for me, on a run is like just hanging in there for as long as you can. Lifting weights is like short, intense spurts. So this music just is perfect for that.
I don't know if you can tell by the everything about me, but I do very little running in my life. I fear, though, that if I did and I was listening to music, I would have to be very pick and choosy about my playlist, because I feel like my running tempo would match the song tempo, and that could become problematic.
You know what really felt good to listen to when I was running is Incifrum, or all the Viking stuff and the folk stuff.
Oh, I can buy into that.
For some reason, or like stuff in more of like the epic fantasy, except for power metal, which is probably like the most. That probably doesn't make any sense, but I don't know. I get more into like the folky stuff where it has a driving beat. Running to that was really, really good, but then when it comes to lifting heavy, give me that punch in the death metal. So we will put this one to the test.
Let's do it.
Requiem Mass.
Very European opening.
Okay.
To the track. Like,
didn't think of that, but
dude,
yeah.
Stylistically, like, I'm American because this is America. I'm very used to the American sound, and not that I'm not used to the European sound, because I'm also very familiar with it. But like, there's certain sounds that like instantly I could be like, this band is fucking European, and like that is quite apparent right off the bat on this little intro.
There's so many. Sorry to stop you.
No, you're good.
There's so many American bands that are doing the European recipe now, though.
Yeah,
I would say probably especially in black metal, but I don't know. We're very much, in the global community now more than ever. But interesting observation, no doubt. I think on this track you immediately get that dual vocal thing happening. Oh, and it's so sweet. I love it. I absolutely love it. There's also a whispered voice in the middle of the track. Did you catch that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so you have starts out with like your guttural thing. He goes into the high pitched thing, and then there's like a whispered. It's not even like a harsh thing. There's like a whispering. It's very audible though. It's not like you had to try really hard to hear it. I'm not really sure exactly what it was saying or what they were going for there, but there was a third voice. It was crazy.
Dig it. It's one of the biggest short leads that I've heard in a track ever. Like, it's so intense for just a couple seconds and goes away. It was a nice little moment, though. And running that little groove part towards the end, like right before you go into the last riff, it's fucking cool. I dig it. This was a great first track. I think they led this off as one of their singles, too. It might have been like one of their last promo singles before they put out the album, and I think it was putting it first in the album and pimping it that way. I think was definitely a good way.
I know they came out with a music video for track number 5 here, but
did you watch that video?
I did, yeah.
Okay, we'll get to that when we get to that.
I definitely like the guitar solo here. It had like a we already mentioned Nile earlier about their new release. That guitar solo sort of had like that Egyptian-y Eastern influence, which was super cool and super unexpected from this band, but crushed it. Great solo. Track number 2.
Bloodity. It's a great fucking track. This week has just been riddled with fantastically fun song titles.
Hey, dude, we're talking death metal here.
Right. Really sweet guitar riff to start out with on this one.
My notes. Are you ready? Riffs, riffs, and then I wrote bounce riffs.
Yeah, the rhythm section does a whole lot in this fucking track. It just does a really nice job of keeping everything moving. There's a really fucking great breakdown in the middle of this track. It's fun.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, this track in particular reminds me of that comment I made about, like, imagine yourself in the pit at a show of these guys playing this shit. Like, that would be an epic fucking time. You got bare minimum of like 4 PBRs in your tummy, and you're just whoa, you know. So track number 3 is an interesting one.
The Killing Machine Part 2.
Killing Machine Part 2. So I did a little backtracking. The 2013 release, self-titled Blood Red Throne, had a track titled Primitive Killing Machine, and I'm pretty sure this is the Part 2.
This is the sequel
of that. Can't be sure, but I have to assume something close to that. So I went back and listened to that too. Fucking great track. It's kind of the story here on these tracks. But yeah, I would have to assume that this is a Part 2 to that. What'd you think?
More brutal. It's what I have on a lot of these notes. There's a couple of songs on this record that, like, I didn't get overwhelmed with, but there's, like, these guys are riff machines.
Very much so.
Like, I don't know what to say other than that. It's so brutal and it moves so quick that, like, it's not like a prog record where there's, like, a whole bunch of crazy doodly shit that, like, it's like getting your dick stomped on by a fucking tank. I guess is the best way I can describe it.
In the most pleasurable possible way.
Right.
But yeah, I think you said about Bastard Grave, like, this is music that you want to move to. This is music that makes you want to dance. Like you said, so take it like Prague. You stop and you listen really, really closely. You're like, wow, this is so interesting. This is so interesting. That's not really this.
No, it's not like it doesn't lack nuance, or like it lacks nuance, but
this has the fun to it.
It's very technically proficiently straightforward, I guess is the best way I could describe it.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a collaborative effort or if it's one guy writing the riffs, but it's very much he's like, flip a switch and write me a ridiculous death metal riff.
Sure.
And he's just full of them. And this is just that all the way through. It's fucking awesome.
It's really good. Warzone. This is great.
It's an absolute fucking banger. This is stylistically, if Blood Red Throne had a style, this is the most Blood Red Throne track I've heard in some time.
A couple doomy elements on this one.
Yeah, and actually that, I think, starts to show up a little bit more and more before the end of this album. So, but that for sure. It's a super straightforward. This is probably the most straightforward track on the album, and it's just their sound wrapped up in a few minutes. Fucking Warzone, perfect.
It's funny because there's like, Instructed Insanity has a very, like, they made a graphic lyric video thing for it. Did you catch that? It's very war inspired.
No.
So having Warzone is kind of a play on Warzone, kind of, I don't know.
Good catch.
I'm going to let you go ahead and pronounce this fucking one.
Number 5?
Yeah.
It's either Skigmanen or Skygmanen. I'm pretty sure that translates to Shadow Man or Shadowed Man, something like that. It's when we, at the end of the year, when we talk about Mork, trying to pronounce that shit, good fucking luck.
Right. So what's fun about my listen through on Blood Red Throne was I had to do it via the internet, and I've had to do this for a few albums, but just because I couldn't get the fucking CD on time for this one. So I did get to watch all the videos, and I did get to, go through and do it track by track individually instead of having it roll straight through. And the fucking video for this is so amateur looking, silly. It's at a Blood Red Throat show.
Looks like a good ass time to me.
What I did notice in the video was that he wasn't doing the high pitch vocals.
Oh.
So I was waiting for this to come around. So I don't know if that is just it's a pain in the dick, because it's just a couple screams. It's not like he's doing whole verses in this one, but they are missing in the video. So I don't know if that could have been caught in the editing, or it could have been he doesn't do them live, or it could be that somebody else does them. So I don't know.
Well, I don't know either. They have been doing it for multiple consecutive albums here. So I mean, when I went back and listened to the self-titled one, because it's not like I go and listen to Blood Red Throne all the damn time like Rob does. Rob, but he was still doing that, or they were still doing that in the 2013 album. So this is not new for them. They've been doing it. So yeah, maybe some more recon is required there. Because that's a good catch. I did not know that. I just sort of figured. When you looked him up, he's the only vocalist listed. Right. So you have to wonder.
It might be a pain in the ass to do those, especially if you're running a full fucking set of doing those growls. Hitting those highs might be just a gigantic pain in the dick and just might be not worth doing.
Sure.
Especially for just those random screams.
It'd be so funny if you did your studio album stuff super brutal, and then when it comes to time to do it live, you just did them clean. Like, how fucking funny would that be?
That'd be great.
It would be like, I could see Dan Sueno doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, sorry guys, I can only do it in the studio. Anyways.
That's a good Sueno.
That's my generic Swedish accent.
There you go.
Where were we?
Movement of the parasites.
Really? So we're already talking about the vocalist here. Probably the most I had to pick up. Sorry, let me try to speak English here.
Sure.
See, I was trying to do my Swedish and my Norwegian.
And
now I can't do
you
English.
forgot how to English.
I had to pick up my jaw off the floor on this vocal performance on this track. He is the most brutal I've ever heard him on any Blood Red Throne track. On this track, Movement of the Parasites. Like, holy fuck, he sounds like a brutal death metal vocalist.
Yeah.
Like, out of nowhere. I mean, he's brutal for sure. Right. But on this one, he's just particularly like, whoa. Well, I was like, my jaw was on the floor. Incredible. I think that by Blood Red Throne standards, this is one of the slowest tracks.
Yeah. I noticed that too. This second, not even the second half, it's like the last third of the record starts to like lose a little bit of steam for me, and I think it might have been led off by this track just being a little bit behind. I think he nailed it on the vocal performance, but at this point I started to, and I'm not tuning out again, it's just both of these albums just got a little bit
draggy.
Yeah.
Like right about this track 7 mark too, huh?
Yeah.
Like in Bastard Grave. Mind if I pop this third one here?
No, go for it. We'll take a time out from the game.
Time out from the game. So this is a little more cartoony. I mean, the other one was cartoony too, but is that a Pokemon?
It does definitely look like one.
Life in the Clouds.
Oh my.
Double dry hopped IPA. 6.1 on this guy.
So we have a little bit of a disagreement on these two cans from Collective Arts. This one's saying it's brewed in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's not a disagreement. It's a confusion.
That's fair.
It says brewed by Collective Arts Brewing, Waunakee, Wisconsin, USA. Now that is not Canada.
Waunakee is Algonquin for the Badland. Wayne's World. So, probably should have done a little research on this to figure this one out, but on the Lumberslayer and Friends podcast, sometimes we shoot from the hip. Sometimes we shoot first, sometimes we digitally don't. So.
Greedo.
See, this one's pouring a lot lighter and a lot hazier right off the bat.
Sure is.
How's she smelling? A little less tropical smelling than the last
Let me
one.
give you another drop here.
Okay.
Try not to give you the yeast.
The yeast and the yeast.
Cheers, bruv.
A cheese.
It's hazy, all right.
A little less depth. It's a little lighter, and funny enough, a little bit lighter on the fruit.
Well, they nailed the name, Life in the Clouds. This is a super pillowy, soft, dry hopped. The mouthfeel is super soft. I mean, like sits on your tongue like a feather, or like a cloud.
You get that creamy finish to it, but it doesn't linger at all.
It doesn't have the flavor profile or the flavor character that this guy had.
No, where you get like the mango and like the slight pineapple, like I would have loved that on this. And it's just not quite there. It's fine, and like it definitely tastes fruity, but like indistinguishable what kind. He's holding it up. Let's see if we can get a read on this guy. Anything. Yeah. Not a whole lot to go on here.
I like it. I don't love it.
Tell me what I'm drinking.
I loved this one.
I did too. I thought that was a very, very strong straight IPA.
Ransack the Universe was great.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny too because like you could add lactose to that and give yourself a very nice variant on it, but straight up as an IPA, it's fucking stupendous.
I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, Life in the Clouds not quite living up to the Ransack, but still pretty decent. I'd go a 1, 2, 3.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, it's all right.
Thanks for sharing the treats, my man.
Hell yeah, dude. Every once in a while I should buy the beers. I don't often do. And I didn't buy these ones. So, all for free. Give me your beers, people. Give me your beers. Oh, finishing it out. Deal it or die.
Deal it or die.
Long fucking track.
Yeah.
Coming in at 8 minutes.
Yes. Longest on the album. I mean, I'm not an expert, but longest Blood Red Throne track I can recall previous releases. It is a good one though. Sections of this convince me this is a melodic death metal track.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even almost like channeling Squizgar, Deathclock-esque stuff happening here. In particularly two sections. You get the back and forth vocals again. But in an 8-minute track, there's so much room. Basically 2 tracks.
Yeah.
And they pack a lot in there. I thought this track was a nice break from the chugs because at every other track here you just have that Blood Red Throne driving. Like, as I put it in Bloodity, the bounce riffs. It's just like bouncing death metal riffs all the way through, where you're feeling like you're going crazy in the pit. This is not that at all. This is a kind of a different take on Blood Red Throne. I liked it.
I think you got it. My only comments on it were you mentioned the 2 really, really solid riffs on it. I could have done with a little bit shorter of a track and featured those a little bit more and gotten rid of the filler stuff, but Blood Red Throne does such a nice job of doing what they do that like it's not terribly intrusive and it's still fucking fun. So,
well, the entire album runs at 49 minutes.
It's not bad.
Yeah, so they had room there. If you shorten this thing up to 5 or 6 minutes,
It's not hurting anything.
yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a nice change of pace. I thought maybe in the middle of the album this track would have been a little bit better. Waiting toward the end, I'm not sure really.
I
the
think
right
I
spot.
agree with that.
I mean, you're much more well versed in how albums are laid out. I think you've been listening to music in straight album form a lot longer than I have. But I thought it was a cool track for sure, and definitely a different taste from what we were getting, really in the last. Going way further before this album, because they sort of have one pedal and they just freaking floor it, What'd you think of the last track, End?
Thought it was the correct title to put last.
They do not let you off easy. I was thinking that you name a track End, that it was like an
Gonna
outro.
mellow you out? No.
No, they don't.
Not at all.
It's they're throwing you up against the wall and beating the shit out of you in this fucking track.
I thought it was a whole lot more Blood Red Throne, and I think you nailed it on. I would shuffle these last 3 songs into the rest of the album, because at this point it's a little bit too. It's not too much, but it's starting to get a little bit monotonous. Very similar to the Bastard Grave layout to me, where I feel like you just, by the end of it, you're a little bit beaten, and we could have moved things around, but it's a fun track. The whole album's it's fun. The whole thing's fucking fun. This whole week of reviews, it's just fucking fun.
I wish I could have this much fun every time, but there's way too much metal to get through to just stick to Scandinavian death metal. But I feel like I'm saying it every time now because we're getting into fall, but years winding down, thinking about where this stuff's gonna fall into place here.
Mm-hmm.
Blood Red Throne came out with a very, very strong album, following up an album that was outstanding before it 3 years ago. So I don't think, for me, it's a question of if this will be on the list. It'll be where on the list. I liked it that much, and perhaps the thing I like about it most is that it's not a significant drop off from Union of Flesh and Machine.
Yeah,
because the last one was right here, and this one's damn near with it. Now, this is not the case where it was Obscura, and I'm sorry I talk about Obscura so often, where it was Acroasis, and you and I were both like, wow, this is the epitome for this band, and they came out with Diluvium, which was a whole nother notch up. This is not that. I'm not saying that, but it's right. They're right on. It's just as good as their last one, which is, man, it's hard to fucking do that.
On your 9th album, nonetheless, which is tough. I have never had less to say about 2 albums that I really liked. Like,
well, this isn't prog. This isn't
right. It's not. It felt the least like homework doing a review than anything else has ever done, and like part of that too is I only got the 1 listen on Blood Red, which upsets me, and I wish I hadn't had that situation. But
hey, maybe we could do a 15-minute podcast. Where it's like, it was a fucking banger, bro. Cheers. Every track. You wouldn't have to say shit.
Dude, it's so... This week was just nothing but fun. And it was, especially after last week... Nothing against you, Merlin. You're a classy dude. Coming off a Tool, this was like the perfect moose-boosh palate cleanser.
Oh, sure.
This is fucking great.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. In Fear Inoculum's awesome. It's so big though. I mean, an hour and a half it's a lot of music. It's almost like 3 albums. It's like, ugh.
It was a chore.
Yes. Yeah.
It was absolutely a chore.
Yeah.
So, great finds by Adam Friedman. You're always crushing it.
I contribute what I can. Nothing less.
That's fair.
I just show up and drink.
You're a nice guy.
Know.
So, this one's a pickup too.
Picking it up.
as I wait. Fuck, dude, like, I reached out to every local record shop in the area trying to find this fucking record. Nobody has this fucking record. Such a pain in the dick. I hate that.
Hey, Norway, send us more copies of your shit so it's more readily available.
The record label that this album's on is Mighty Music,
I saw that.
which is fun.
I've never heard of that.
I hadn't either.
Okay, so, but this is a legitimate band, obviously.
Yeah.
So, I wonder what the deal is there.
I don't know. Oh, before I forget about it, this one too. This week has my favorite fucking album art of the whole year. I really fucking like the album art on this one. It looks like they stuck with the same artist of the self-titled album. They look very, very similar. The layout's very similar. It's a centered image with, like, it's a very traditional cover. It's a logo, a centered image. But fuck, it's a cool fucking album cover. I really, really like it. So
It's funny, I'm having trouble picturing it, even though I've seen it multiple times.
their logo's dope. It's so fucking brutal. Their font logo. So good.
As it fucking should be. Man, I can't complain when a band I like so much releases an album this good. Plus, we discovered someone new in Bastard Grave.
Hell yeah.
That's what I call a success. Some successful beers.
It's another good week.
It's a good-ass week.
I feel like we're just going to drive through positivity for the rest of the fucking year, dude. Like, there's just so much shit on the horizon that I'm looking forward to. It's going to be great.
Well, let's balance things out. What has been your biggest disappointment so far that you can think of? I know we listened to a lot, so mine would definitely be. I'll go first. Mine would definitely be Equilibrium. I really just thought that, with their last one just being what I thought was so great, and it just didn't live up, and I'm disappointed. But I was curious to pose that question to you, from your perspective. So, anything stand out that let you down?
Going way back to the beginning of the year, and like, as you mentioned, we're coming up to the end of the year. It's time to start thinking about what came out, and dude, I don't think I've bought more albums in a year than this year.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, dick. But going back to what came out in the beginning of the year, I know this is going to be on your list of things that aren't that exciting, but for me, I was kind of expecting a little bit more. Fallujah's new record was extremely underwhelming.
Yeah, I remember that one.
So that's the one that stands out really bad, as like just not living up to expectations.
Fallujah's one I often forget about, unfortunately.
Fallujah's one of those, like, I don't know what it is, but like my taste does not lean towards a Fallujah, and for some reason I really like that band. So,
well,
a little bit of a bummer.
They're pretty their own thing. I mean, I'm sure there's other bands that sound like that, but I don't see that sound being replicated very often.
Yeah.
So if it does jive with you, I can understand that. But yeah, this is definitely a band that I've wanted to get into and just have not been able to. So
that's fair. The new Contortionist is pretty good, but it's not fantastic for me. But the last Contortionist wasn't fantastic for me either. So there's that. But that one's fine. Like, I really don't have that much to complain about. Honestly, dude, my expected bands have for the most part delivered. And I've gotten a lot of new stuff that has been fucking off the charts. My top 6 of this year is fairly locked.
Really?
Yes, unless something fucking crazy comes out, which is completely possible that we'll add on to. But like,
I'm not that set at all.
I'm pretty damn set in what I'm not set in the order. But like I said, it's like
Yeah,
just
I'm still waiting for a
building onto
couple
that.
things.
so fucking good. Oh my god, this year's been so good. I don't know what to say other than that. 15's gonna be tough, I think, this year. So that's a problem I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing. Is it it's really just out of fun. Even though like it does stress me out a little bit to make the list, it's really an enjoyable process. I mean, your top 6 already. That's craziness.
Like I said, other stuff can lock in, but I know, like, I had top 5 for a long time, and the fucking Russian Circles came out and just like,
it's great.
Fuck you.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's so good. But like, so much shit coming from the underground. A lot of stuff that like I don't. The other bitch about this is 4 of those top 6 I don't even own physical copies of because of goddamn digipack. Ruining my day really bad. So.
In the words of Lumberslayer, dicks.
Fucking ruining my day. But yeah, dude, it's just been such a good fucking year. Fun times. Good time to have a podcast.
It's a great time to have a podcast. Good metal, good beer. Not sure what else there is, man.
Goddamn right. We have any lingering business that needs to be addressed?
No, I know we're both looking forward to hockey season. Training camp just started.
Oh yeah.
So there's news, going on there. It'll be interesting to see who starts on opening night in October. But we shall see.
Excited to get back into that.
Yeah, speaking of which, didn't think of this until just now. I don't know when the fantasy draft is going to happen, if we will be invited back or what, but I will touch base with your boy, Kamal, see what the dealio is.
I don't know if I'll be invited back because of how good I did last season. I'm just so good at fantasy hockey, damn it.
Be funny if I made you draft your own team this time.
Oh, fair enough. That is fair.
No, a huge part of it's luck. So
the wife got roped into fantasy football this year.
Oh, that's right.
And she's trying to get me to fucking
do it all for you, or all for her.
She's making her own choices too, but like, I don't know. Like, I'm a hockey guy, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing with hockey. Like, you want to throw me into fucking football and
I'd be lost with that.
It's just no good. And she's running through ESPN, and my only experience with any kind of fantasy is through Yahoo. So like, I don't know how the fucking system works and doing all that shit. And fuck, dude.
So you told her this, right?
Yes. And she keeps asking me questions that I just do not have the fucking answer to. So that's fun. What a great time.
Is Johnson any good? Oh, he's great. He's fucking. He's almost as good as Smith.
Oh my god. What was it? Chad Knopf. Still one of my favorite things I ever have. He got cut. I'm so bummed. The Detroit Lions.
He got caught. Chad Knopf.
Chad Knopf. The Detroit Lions, the Detroit Football Lions, picked up a human being who had the name Chad Knopf.
And he was jacking off on Ford Field and got cut.
How do you not give your as a citizen of the world? How do you not? Is there a shortened version of Chad, or is Chad short for anything?
I think it's just Chad.
I go with like Chuck. Just Chuck.
You gotta hope you got a better middle name you can
It's
go
not
by.
a lot better. Yeah. I don't know, man. I was an adult human being. I couldn't be Chad Knopf.
You know what? Just call me John. Just call me John, guys.
Oh, fuck. On that note.
On that note, indeed.
For this week's Lumberslayer friends, I've been Alex Lumberslayer along with
Adam Freeman.
And we'll see you.